Paris, is this just a new look or a cry for help only Jungkook can answer? Kim Taehyung, famously known as V from BTS, was recently spotted walking alone through the streets of Paris. But this wasn't just another celebrity sighting, and these weren't just random paparazzi photos. This was an emotional explosion in visual form, a seismic shift that sent shockwaves through the BTS fandom. The moment images surfaced showing Taehyung with a deliberate eyebrow slit and green highlighted hair, ARMY didn't just react. They imploded. Theories ignited. Emotions flared. And one question echoed louder than the rest. Was this really about fashion? Or was it a secret message meant for one person, Jungkook? For years, fans have dissected every glance, every silence, every subtle gesture between Taehyung and Jungkook. Their connection has always existed in the gray zone. Too close to ignore, too ambiguous to confirm. But this latest visual from Taehyung seems to be doing more than just turning heads. It's igniting unresolved tension, unanswered questions, and a dangerous amount of emotional speculation. Why did Taehyung choose Paris, the city of romance and reinvention, to unveil such a provocative transformation? Why now? After months of radio silence following his military discharge, why such an extreme and emotionally loaded aesthetic? And more importantly, why did he do it alone, with no members, no staff, no public context, and absolutely zero explanation? Let's be honest. This wasn't just an eyebrow slit. This wasn't just green streaks in his hair. This was deliberate, controlled, timed. Taehyung didn't just show up. He arrived. And he did so in a way that left no room for comfort, no place for passive interpretation. He came as a storm, quiet on the outside, chaotic within. And armies could feel it. Something is different. Something is off. And that difference is not random. I asked it about control, about identity, about something or someone he's no longer willing to remain silent about. Taehyung's public appearance was unsettlingly calm. He walked like a man carrying secrets. He looked through the crowd like he was waiting for one specific person to see him. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't performing. He was presenting something raw, untamed, and unfiltered. For some, this was an artistic expression of rebirth.
For others, a red flag.
But for those who've been following the invisible threads that connect Taehyung and Jungkook, it was a scream dressed as a whisper. Could the eyebrow slit be a coded memory? Jungkook, after all, once had the same slit during his wilder phase. Could the green highlights be a symbolic throwback to the earlier days, when everything between them felt unspoken but electric? Or is it darker than that? An emotional cry, a wound worn openly, a scar that refuses to fade. No one from BTS has commented. Not one member has acknowledged Taehyung's transformation. Not even Jungkook, who used to be the first to like, repost, or react to Taehyung's fashion experiments. His silence is louder than any caption, more damning than any statement. Is he avoiding the truth or protecting it? There's something haunting about the way this unfolded. No press release, no stylist note, no explanation from Celine, Dior, or any brand that might have orchestrated this. Taehyung's look was entirely his own, and that's what makes it terrifyingly real. This wasn't curated. This was raw. Fans have started pulling receipts, old weverse posts, live broadcasts, photo shoots from years ago. They're looking for clues, moments where Taehyung looked at Jungkook too long, where a song lyric felt too personal, where a goodbye felt too permanent. And now, with this image, those fragments feel like they're snapping into place. There's something agonizing about the idea that this wasn't meant for us, that we weren't the audience, that the eyebrow slit and green highlights were aimed at just one person, that this wasn't for cameras, for fans, or for the media, but for Jungkook alone. And what if Jungkook got the message? What if he saw the photos, recognized the symbols, and chose to remain silent? What if his silence is the answer? The emotional weight behind the Taehyung dynamic has always existed between fantasy and possibility. Some fans ship it, others dismiss it. But even the most skeptical observers admit, there's something there, something fragile, something sacred, and now something broken. Is this look a form of closure? A warning? There are rumors swirling that Taehyung and Jungkook haven't spoken in months. That their last interaction, a brief backstage moment, ended in silence. That their group chats are fractured. That the military changed them. That fame isolated them. That love, or something like it, got lost somewhere between comebacks and commercial deals. Could it be that Taehyung is grieving the version of Jungkook he used to know? The one who laughed too hard, who waited for him at the airport, who always stood just close enough to matter. Could it be that the green in his hair is not just color, but envy? Not just style, but sadness. What does an eyebrow slit say that a press release never could? Everything and nothing. And yet, fans can't look away. They're analyzing his eyes, the way his shoulders slope, the pace of his walk. They're crying over the possibility that this is more than fashion, that it's a goodbye Jungkook didn't ask for, or maybe a challenge he's not ready to face. One fan wrote, "This isn't just a look. This is trauma therapy in full glam." Another tweeted, "Taehyung didn't dress for the public. He dressed for Jungkook's memory." And perhaps the most heartbreaking comment, "This is what it looks like when someone finally gives up on being understood." Why are fans so sure Jungkook is the target? Because no one else would make sense. Because no one else has the history, the chemistry, the depth. Because Jungkook is the only person who's been emotionally tethered to Taehyung since debut, and the only one who's missing in action during Taehyung's most defining moment. So we ask again, what is Taehyung trying to say? That he's changed? That he's hurt? That he's ready to walk alone? Or that he's still waiting? The tragedy of this moment isn't in the hair or the eyebrows. It's in the silence, the unspoken grief, the tension that hasn't left the room since Paris. It's in the way Taehyung looked at the cameras, daring anyone, to ask what's wrong. And no one did. Not HYB, not BTS, not even Jungkook. Which begs the ultimate question, what happens when you scream without making a sound and the one person who is supposed to hear it pretends not to? Taehyung walked through Paris like a ghost draped in style. Haunting, beautiful, unforgettable. But his eyes weren't looking at the crowd. They were looking past it, searching, hoping. Or maybe mourning. As the world debates fashion versus message, trend versus trauma, only one person holds the answer. And that person hasn't said a word, but maybe he doesn't have to, because maybe, deep down, he already knows. They say fashion is personal. But when Kim Taehyung steps into the public eye, fashion becomes political, emotional, intimate. And this time, it may have become devastating. Because while the world sees green hair and a sliced eyebrow, those who've watched BTS from day one see a story, a coded narrative told not with words, but with silence. And the one person who may truly understand that story is nowhere to be found. It's been days since the images first surfaced. Taehyung, alone in Paris, styled in a way that screamed transformation. The green streaks weren't wild or bright. They were deep, muted, subtle enough to blend in, yet bold enough to stand out, a contradiction in itself. And then, of course, the eyebrow. Not a shave, not a slit, a slice. A deliberate incision right through one of the most expressive parts of the human face. It's a detail impossible to ignore, and for those reading between the lines, impossible to misinterpret in Korean culture, especially within the idol world. Outward appearance is tightly curated, meticulously calculated. Nothing goes unapproved. So for Taehyung to appear like this, unguided, unfiltered, almost feral in his freedom, it was as if he was breaking the fourth wall, shattering the mold, refusing the mask. And in doing so, he shattered something else. The illusion that everything was fine, because now it's clear it isn't. Something is cracked. And maybe, just maybe, that something has a name, Jungkook. The elephant in the room isn't just that Jungkook didn't comment. It's that he disappeared. Radio silence. No Instagram stories, no airport sightings, no studio selfies. Nothing. And when Jungkook goes quiet, it's not just absence, it's deafening. Especially when the person making noise without a sound is Taehyung. It's impossible to ignore how the two used to move like shadows of each other. Where one went, the other followed. Not always in body, but in spirit. Fans called them soulmates, not out of delusion, but because the connection was too thick to deny. They didn't always speak. They didn't need to. But lately, that thread is frayed. Their timelines no longer intersect. Their eyes no longer find each other on stage. And now, with this Paris appearance, the void feels gaping. What happened? Some say it was the military. That time apart carved space for change. Others whisper of a falling out. Something intense. Something unresolved. There were clues if you knew where to look. The sudden lack of fan service. The rehearsed distance. The glances that used to linger, but now dart away. A coldness too subtle for casual fans to catch, but too loud for longtime armies to ignore.